The story Demian revolves around its main character, Emil Sinclair, and his journey to understand himself and the process of the human mind. It starts with Sinclair living a normal, wealthy child's life, but as he grows up, he realizes the difference between his family's so-called perfect life and those who live impoverished lives. Sinclair also explores the boundaries religion has on people and how they live, which becomes the main focus of the story as he progresses. Religion also plays a huge part in how he learns to comprehend what he experiences, and Max Damian, his friend later on in the story, guides him throughout his life to fully understand what he cannot about himself and others around him in the beginning. There are many thematic topics that are present within the story, but two prevalent ones surround psychology and the concepts of good and evil. The first theme statement I thought of is that to first understand the human psyche, a person must realize that reality is only what a person perceives and not what the outside world is. This means that what we see as a real world isn't what another person may see. We see objects or hear facts about things around us and interpret them in our own way, but another person may have a completely different perspective from what you may have thought. This applies to Sinclair's life because as he learns more about other people and receives insights from Damian, he notices the different takes people have on life through how religion is often viewed. The two characters break down the very core of religion and critique the stories within the Bible in early days of acquainting themselves with each other. These discussions they have about religion and Sinclair's own experience with religion forms his opinion on what he believes in, and he meets others later on that have various perspectives on the basis of religion. The second theme statement about good and evil is that the concepts of good and evil are not two separate subjects, but they are intertwined ideas that coincide with each other. The story puts a heavy emphasis on how religion, specifically Christianity, because that's the religion Sinclair follows, writes that sins don't help you and instead hinder you through life. People can rid of their sins, but the main character believes that sins and other impurities in life should be kept off a person, and that no one is only good. Abraxas, the god that he learns about, is a god of both good and evil, who better encompasses how people work, unlike how God in Christianity is perceived to be an entity of all that is only good. Sinclair struggles through life with the idea that no one can only be good. My first key passage says, "Playing with the note, I unfolded it carelessly and noticed a few words written on it. One glance was sufficient. One word stopped me cold. In panic, I read on while cold fear contracted my heart. The bird writes its way out of the egg. The egg is the world. Who would be born must first destroy a world. The bird flies to God. That God's name is Abraxas." At this point in the story, Sinclair finally understands his new thoughts about how the mind functions, and he tries to contact Damian to update him with his new discoveries. The note he receives is from Damian, who the protagonist greatly revered because of the significant help he's provided to him throughout his life. The new information within the note causes Sinclair to learn of a new god that he's never heard of before. Abraxas somewhat leads the story into a new arc of his life, which involves uniting the good and bad realms he visualizes in his mind. My second key passage states that he had never heard me speak like that before, and at the same moment I realized with a flash of shame and horror that the arrow I had shot at him, that had pierced his heart, had come from his own armory. I was now flinging back at him reproaches that on occasion he had directed against himself, half in irony. At this point in his life, the protagonist has met another mentor to follow in his life, Pistorius, and after learning a vast amount of knowledge about Abraxas and how the human mind functions, Sinclair starts to question Pistorius for his own credibility. But as soon as the protagonist objects to what he says, he realizes that he can't completely see the credibility because it is morals that Pistorius he himself cannot follow. In short, as to not spoil some parts of the book, Pistorius is teaching Sinclair everything he knows to make sure that he can do what he himself couldn't in his lifetime. There are many regrets that he has, and he believes that Sinclair has the ability to stand up and not make the same mistakes he made in the past. As a result, Sinclair accidentally hurts his friend with the worst insecurity and reality that his friend endures. Pistorius has been teaching him about many radical ideas that he's had as well as complex dreams, and the fact that he struck the weakest point that his mentor has affected him greatly. After the situation passes, they no longer talk or take the time to enjoy each other's company, and this starts a new journey that Sinclair follows in the story. My third key passage says, "I felt a mixture of alarm and joy at each word. I knew the speaker. It was Damian. I followed him in the Japanese through the wind-swept streets. Listening to the conversation, I relished the sound of Damian's voice. It still had its familiar ring. The same old beautiful certainty and calm had all their power over me. Now all was well. I had found him." Damian and Sinclair don't see each other for years, and this bothers the main character because he still doesn't understand himself and many other mysteries surrounding the human mind. But after years away from Damian and struggling to understand himself, Sinclair finally reunites with him after this quote. They both have matured, and the protagonist has garnered more knowledge that allows him to comprehend the words Damian prematurely gave him about humans and how they work and think in the beginning of the story. This paragraph is the start of the events that occur that connect the situation Sinclair experiences in the beginning to the situation that Sinclair becomes involved with at the time near the end of the story. It brings everything together once the protagonist struggles through his troubles with finding who he is. The author's style includes being thought-invoking and highly descriptive. It's told from a first-person point of view through the main character's thoughts and experiences. Because we can hear the exact thought process within Sinclair's head, we can understand exactly how he thinks through the mysteries and the confusion he has about himself and how humans think. The writing style also shows Sinclair's personality and known knowledge. There's a wide range of vocabulary not often used in daily life, and the protagonist is shown to be very observant, since he describes various views in the scenery that he sees as he travels to different places to find who he is. He also thoroughly describes his thoughts and revelations. Overall, I thought this book was quite interesting and gave insight to a whole other perspective of the way some people think the human mind works. It also taught me more about how I should think about myself and how I make decisions in my life. Although I thought that the message within the story was well executed, a lot of the vocabulary made it harder to understand, and I had to reread many paragraphs to fully grasp the meaning behind it. I originally wanted to read and understand this book because an artist that I liked created a whole universe and story that includes concepts within Demian, so that's why I chose this book to work on. There are also some inappropriate decisions and ideas shown in the story that I don't agree with, which includes how they demean women, so that somewhat diminished my opinion on the book. The way the story was written as well, including scenes that seemed too similar to others, made it seem a bit repetitive, but each time I thought that while I was reading, the ending of that event turned out to hold a new lesson and idea that Sinclair discovers, continuing the story and once again making it interesting. Because of this, I would rate this book a 7 out of 10, but it was very educative and thoughtful in how to think of yourself and how others think of you. The ending made me believe there was still hope to change how I think to better think through my problems, because it left with an ending that made it seem like a happy future would still be coming for Sinclair. I recommend this book to anyone that wants to learn more about understanding themselves through another's journey, or if they just want to explore different ideas about religion and how people perceive it.